We are here for our second episode of Stupid Cricket. Again, Behram is with me to just test how stupid it is I can come up with. Fred Titmus, which I mentioned for no other reason.
And I was saying the Proger is a good name.
So, Middlesex are playing Kent, right? Middlesex is in the north of London, and Tunbridge Wells is a little bit south of London. It's a solid plan, except for the fact that if you've ever lived in London at all, you understand that it's not as solid a plan. So they arrive at the grounds, and they're the only ones there. The Kent team is there, and there's 3 Middlesex players, right? I'm a professional cricketer. I'm about to get my 50. I'm not declaring, but I've got a chance of making a 50. And John Proger takes one of the greatest catches that anyone in cricket has seen to catch his own opening batter out. Are you saying this is too stupid, even for stupid cricket?
If this happened in another league, I would have bought it.
Yeah.
You enjoyed the Titmus one.
Do you like the Titmus? Too much Titmus? We are here for our second episode of Stupid Cricket. Again, Behram is with me to just test how stupid it is I can come up with and how crazy these stories are. If you haven't seen the first episode, it's all about Dirk Nanas. This one, we're going back a little bit further, but I promise you, it's equally, if not more stupid. Have you ever heard of a cricketer called John Proger?
I haven't actually, but what a fantastic name.
Proger is a good name. He was a draftsman. And he wanted to be a goalkeeper with Charlton Athletic. He was actually signed, but I don't think he ever went on to play. But it does tell you what an athlete John Proger was.
Quite a lot of people back in that time, right?
Yes.
Who would play both cricket and football.
Yeah, this was the 50s, so it's probably the kind of the end of that period where people played both sports. No, you're right.
Bobby Charlton was another one, no?
Yeah, and Dennis Compton played both.
True.
Yeah, and then about up until Ian Botham, and then it kind of stopped. So.
Yeah. Gary Neville.
Exactly.
He opened the batting with Matty, right? Matty Hayden.
I have no idea if John Proger was as good a footballer as Gary Neville, but it's possible. It's possible. So he plays 153 first-class games. In first-class cricket, he averaged 20 with the bat.
Okay.
And he was a batter. And he made 100 every 50 games, right? Now, does that sound weird to you?
I mean, I'm probably going to say he was a better goalkeeper, right? Or guess.
Well, there is a reason why the goalkeeper is important. John Proger was in the side essentially to field.
Oh, so he was a Jim Fote.
He was very Jim Fote. If you don't know who Jim Fote is, wait to the end of this video and go Google Jim Fote because it is worth finding out about. But yeah, in the 1950s and 60s, as you know with Jim Fote, there was a few cricketers who were there because they could field. So we don't see it anymore, right? The sort of specialist fielding role.
Yeah.
But back in those days, and especially in county cricket, it was hard to find people who could average 30, 35. The wickets weren't always as good. You were playing like some of these seasons, they were playing like 27 games a season, so people got tired and injured and everything else. So someone like Jim Proger was in the side because he was an incredible fielder. So incredible that he holds the record, I think he still holds it to this day for Kent, for the most outfield catches in a game. He took 8.
Wow.
And that was against Gloucestershire in 1961. So we know that A, he was an incredible athlete, and B, clearly had very good hands.
I mean, I'd probably take an average of 20 if you give me exceptional fielding skills, especially in a day and age where 30, 35 is a very sought-after batting average. Right?
Yeah, there were heaps of players.
It's not a terrible deal.
No, I think, now we would probably, because we can't measure it, we would probably go with the batting. But in those days, I think they actually thought, let's get a little bit more fielding in our side, right?
Well, now we don't even want wicket keepers who average 35. So.
Behram, we can't get into that conversation today. Okay, so Middlesex are playing Kent, right? And so Kent play at Canterbury and they play at Beckenham around the corner here now, but they used to play, and they quite often play out games at other places like Tunbridge Wells, which is a little pretty village in the middle of nowhere. Sorry to all the Tunbridge Wells fans out there. But, the point being is that Middlesex is in the north of London and Tunbridge Wells is a little bit south of London, but they are within driving reach of each other, if you know what I mean.
All right.
So it's not like, it's like an all-day trip or anything. You're basically going from North London to South London and then a little bit further on. Right?
Fair enough.
So on day one of this 3-day first-class game, so a county game, Middlesex dismisses Kent for 150. Fred Titmus, which I mentioned for no other reason.
And I was saying the Proger is a good name.
Fred Titmus.
And now you've given me Fred Titmus.
Fred Titmus, one of the great names in cricket. There's a song about Fred Titmus as well. I don't know if we can play it because of legal reasons, but there is a song about Fred Titmus, which is absolutely genius. He took 4 wickets for 39. It is true that I only included him so that I could get the reaction of Behram for Fred Titmus. No one makes more than 35 for Kent, right? So they struggle.
Just like the litmus test, we should have the Titmus test in cricket. That's where this sport should head.
my son, really enjoys all the titmus jokes. He was like, I can't believe I have to sit out here and help you guys record. And now he's like, titmus content? I'm here for titmus. All right, so stumps on that first day. Middlesex have lost 3 wickets, stumps, but they're only 29 runs behind. So they've already done very well. And one of the not out batters is a guy called Bob White, okay? This game all starts on a Saturday, right?
Okay.
So in those days, you had a rest day on Sunday. So you have day 1 of the county game on Saturday, no cricket on Sunday, and then they have to come back for Monday and Tuesday. Now, my guess is in county cricket at that time, generally, you would probably just stay over in the place that you were going to play, right? But because this game is in Tunbridge Wells, they're thinking, well, we can drive back to London, spend some time with our family, maybe go to church if some of them are religious, or play some golf, whatever you want to do on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Hang out there, and then on Monday morning, we'll come back for the game.
Now, Ted Clark was a Surrey man, so he knew that it was fraught with danger going back home to London and then trying to come back on the A2 early Monday morning. So what we did, we picked him up at Croydon, and he knew the back doubles across Lingfield Racecourse. So there was Sid Russell, myself, and Ted Clark. And we got there no problem at all because, as I say, Ted Clark knew the back doubles and he knew the potential. All the rest tried to come down the A2 and, of course, got caught at Tunbridge.
It's a solid plan, except for the fact that if you've ever lived in London at all, you understand that it's not as solid a plan to come back on a Monday morning with heavy traffic. But let's put a pin in that for a moment. So on the Monday morning, they all go in their groups, right? So Bob White gets picked up by Sid Russell.
Okay.
So Sid Russell's a batter for Middlesex, and he's already out. Okay. So Ted Clark is the other person there, and he was the 12th man. He goes on to be a really, really good cricketer, but at this stage he was the 12th. Ted Clark knows this area quite well. I think he might actually be from southern London. And so when he gets picked up, he goes, don't go on the main roads, guys. I'll take you the back roads and we'll get around there easily.
All right. That sounds like an even better plan.
Exactly. So they arrive at the grounds, and they're the only ones there. The Kent team is there, and there's 3 Middlesex players, right? But they're like, okay, we've got time. The other players will turn up. Behram, the other players from Middlesex do not turn up. The game is scheduled to start, I think it was 11:30 back in those days. The game is scheduled to start at 11:30. At 11:30, Middlesex have 3 players. A dismissed batter, the 12th man, and the not out batter.
So does the 12th man play in this scenario?
No. So now we're getting to the really fun part of it. No, 12th man cannot play. It's an excellent question. There's no law that allows for that to happen, right?
Right.
I'm sure it was a conversation, and I'm sure someone asked like you did, and everyone just went, sadly, no, that's not the case. So Bob White's like, well, what can I do? All right, I'll have to get in my whites. So he puts his flannels on. I'm assuming it was flannels back then.
Yeah.
He puts his flannels on, he puts his pads on, and he gets ready to go out into the middle. He walks out in the middle. Kents are out in the middle. The umpires are out in the middle. And one batter is out in the middle, right? No one else turns up, right? It is literally, everyone is staring at each other thinking, what do we do next, right? So what do you think the conversation is from the umpires? What do you think they're talking about?
Do we allow the one batter to run singles, or should he run a double each time?
That's not in the law book. Can't do that one. I love your outside the box thinking. No. Okay, so they can't do that. What would you do?
Do we allow the dismissed batter to replace another batter in the lineup?
Absolutely love that. Again, not in the rule book. We cannot do that. What's the third option?
Do we allow the 12th man to just be a runner and then allow them to continue the innings?
Also, not in the laws of cricket. You run it. All of these are great ways of getting the game started.
This is what I would have done in the street, right? If we were playing in the street and not at Kent.
Yes.
Oh, Proger, whatever.
Tunbridge Wells.
Tunbridge Wells. Yeah, I was close enough.
You've come up with 3. Anything else?
We will let the other team bat again.
Now
I got it.
No, but now you're getting somewhere.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So the one thing that you didn't mention was timed out, right? And that was my first thought. And then I went, wait a minute, that's not how timed out works.
Yeah.
Because the batter is already actually made the crease on time.
Exactly.
So you can't time out the next batter, and then you can't time out all the other batters behind them, right? So there's nothing that you can do to get rid of that batter. That batter, even though he's not in Kent at the moment, he's still scheduled to bat, right? So timed out doesn't work. So there's our 4th idea. So this is where it gets fun.
Umpire said to me, you'll have to declare. I said, I'm 44, not out. I'm not declaring.
I'm a professional cricketer. I'm about to get my 50. I'm not declaring, but I've got a chance of making a 50. So the umpire's like, so there's their 5th idea gone, right? The umpires have no idea what to do. So they're thinking maybe if we just stuff around for a little bit, eventually Middlesex will turn up. Because they know that they're going to turn up, right? They just know that it's probably traffic. The problem is that there's a player called Peter Richardson, very good player for England, had a great start to his career, kind of flamed out a little bit. But Peter Richardson's putting a lot of pressure on the umpires. He's like...
Because he could see if he then batted against nobody, if we had to, eventually we went out with about 6 or 7 substitutes, all from Kent, and he could see the fastest 100 of the season looming up.
You know, there's a little bit of talking about forfeiting the game, but remember, fans have turned up. Like, Kent don't want this game forfeited because they can make money from this game, right? So Kent don't want it forfeited, which is an option as well. So Peter Richardson's like, we'll just go out there and if you just close their innings, right? But Peter Richardson is thinking about something called the Walter Lawrence Trophy. Have you ever heard of the Walter Lawrence Trophy?
No.
This is awesome. I'm so happy I get to tell you this. Because Shahid Afridi has won a Walter Lawrence Trophy.
Wow.
It is for the fastest 100 in county cricket that season, right? That particular year, they weren't handing out the trophy as far as I can understand, but you still got the check. So the trophy starts back in the 1930s, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so Shahid Afridi won in 2017, and, you know, lots of cricketers that you would know have won this award. I think Ben Stokes might have won it one year, you know, big name players, county players have won it, all these sorts of things. But the players are all aware that there's a check out there if something happens. So Peter Richardson, legend that he is, thinks to himself, wait a minute here. If I go out and bat now as the opening batter, and they've got 3 players, and one of them's the 12th man, and the other 2 are the top order guys, I'm going to score the fastest 100 of the year without any problem. He's probably also thinking, how many fielders are they going to have? Where are they going to find these fielders, right?
That's true.
So Peter Richardson puts a lot of pressure on, and eventually the umpires are like, okay, clearly if we forfeit the game, that ruins everything for what might be an hour delay.
Yeah.
Right? So we're not going to forfeit the game. We're just going to make a common sense ruling, which I believe is the only time this has ever happened in professional cricket, where the umpires declared the innings.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, what else? What other choice would they left with,
I think it's probably the most likely.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
If I'm an umpire in that position and I can't do all of the out-of-the-box thinking that I was doing sitting over here, I'd have to move the game forward, and that seems like the most rational way to move the game forward.
I'm completely with you. So they do it. I think in Wisden it was called closed innings, which I don't think has ever been used before. But basically, no one knew what to say about this or what to do about this, and they just went with the fact that we need to stop this game at the moment, right? Middlesex still only had 3 players.
Yeah.
Right? So Colin Cowdrey, who's a legend of Kent and obviously played for England and everything else, he's like, look, fine, I'll allow your I'll allow your 12th man to be your wicketkeeper, and we'll give you extra fielders.
That's quite generous.
Just as they're about to go out on the field, they then realise that 3 people have turned up. So they now have 6 players, so they only need 5 fielders to be able to go out there and actually do it. And it's a little bit confusing because the scorecard isn't written correctly.
Wait, so they didn't have 11 people on the field. They had 5.
They had 5 Middlesex... No, sorry. They had 6 Middlesex players and 5 Kent players.
Okay. So 2 made it.
So 3 more made it.
Okay, got it.
So the 12th man is the wicketkeeper. I know this is hard to... There's a lot of maths involved with this story. I have double-checked and triple-checked this so many times. Even the scorecard is wrong, by the way, because the scorecard says that Alan Moss and John Price opened the bowling, and I talked to Bob White. He was like, no, they weren't there. Okay, so we know that one of the opening bowlers was a guy called Don Bennett. So he must have come in the second car.
Okay.
So he's opening the bowling. The 12th man is wicket keeping. And at the other end, kind of everyone bowled, right? Because they didn't have proper bowlers for the other end.
Of course.
The fielders that Kent set out were actually incredible because Derek Underwood was one of the fielders, right? Tony Catt, Alan Brown, and John Dye were the other ones. And then John Proger. So they sent out probably in Underwood and Proger, you know, two of their better athletes and 2 of their better fielders.
That's what I was thinking. Why would you send out... So if I'm Kent and I have a guy on my roster who I've specifically hired and given a contract to because of his fielding skills, why would I give that guy to the opposition?
So I think that's one of the greatest questions you've ever asked in your life about anything. But I think what happened is none of the top order guys can field because they've all got to pad up and bat. So they needed someone from the middle order or lower. And I don't know all these guys, but I know that Derek Underwood is a bowler, right? So my guess is that some of these guys are bowlers and maybe some of these are lower order players. And John Proger bats at number 6 because we've already said he doesn't make a lot of runs. You're not going to bat him up high up the order.
Yeah.
But what you say is correct. And so Bob White and the Middlesex team, they look around and they're like, well, if we've got John Proger, let's put John Proger in at slip. Right? So they put him in at slip and Don Bennett is bowling. And Don Bennett... and Don Bennett is bowling to Brian Luckhurst. So another great cricketer is out there. Some great cricketers in this game, by the way. That's one of the funny things about county cricket is almost every team just had a legend in it at this stage. But so Brian Luckhurst is batting. He's facing Don Bennett, who's not usually an opening bowler, but obviously has to this day. He gets an edge.
And sure enough, I think he caught Brian Luckhurst an absolute blinder. The ball didn't leave the ground hardly.
And John Proger takes one of the greatest catches that anyone in cricket has seen to catch his own opening batter out.
His own teammate. Wow. Talk about shooting yourself in the foot.
Okay, so at this stage, it's more like a kid's game or a midweek bar match.
It's like when I'm playing Eke out over here.
Yeah, it's so stupid, right? Thankfully, then the rest of Middlesex actually start to turn up, and so the game goes back to normal. But two things happen. One is Pete Richardson is still chasing his 100.
Right. For the Maxwell Lawrence Trophy.
Walter Lawrence, but close enough.
Walter Lawrence.
You got the Lawrence?
Yeah. I'm halfway there. Better than my effort with the grounds name.
The Shahid Afridi Trophy.
Yeah, sure.
So, I think this story depends on whether you think Peter Richardson is a hero or a villain. Because if he's the sort of guy just go, come on, I want to go out there because I want to get some quick money, you might think he's a villain. Or if you think he's a hero for working out there was an opportunity where he could cash in, where do you go?
I mean, back in the day, that check would have meant a lot, right?
Yeah, it's good money.
If you're giving one player in the entire county seasons to like a fair bit of money for scoring the fastest 100, I see where his motivation stemmed from. I'm with him.
He made 93.
No! Did Proger catch him?
If Proger was off the field by this stage, that would have been absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
The only other thing I would say is I can't find how many balls he made it off. So I don't know if he was on the verge of getting the Walter Lawrence Trophy that year. And I don't know who actually got the trophy that year or who got the check that year. But he made 93. But at this stage, Kent has lost a lot of wickets. So now John Proger has to come out and bat. And do you remember I said before, he never ever makes runs?
Oh my God, he's going to make runs now, isn't he?
He makes his 6th highest score in first-class cricket. It's only 74, so it's not huge. But on the day he took maybe his greatest catch, but of his teammate, he then came out and absolutely smoked the ball everywhere. Anyway.
That's a redemption act. I think he's absolved himself.
He might have been the best player on both sides.
Yeah. Proged it.
He proged it all over the place. Kent made 341. And they batted on for so long, Middlesex didn't actually have time to make a chase. So Middlesex ended up at 82 for 3. Do you want to know who the not-out batter in the second innings for Middlesex was?
Who was it?
It was Bob White again.
Oh, wow.
Bob White was not out twice in what is, I would say, one of the stupidest games of cricket of all time. Would you say this is stupid cricket?
I mean, if I'm Bob White, I would be fuming, right?
It helped his average that game.
It definitely helped his average, but he could have gotten a result out of it. Right?
He could have got more runs.
He could have gotten more runs. And yeah, it is pretty much like it definitely qualifies for stupid cricket. But I never thought that would have actually happened in a county cricket game, right? Because even back in that day, this was serious cricket.
Are you saying this is too stupid, even for stupid cricket?
If this happened in another league, I would have bought it.
Yeah.
This happening in county cricket makes it bizarre.
Completely bizarre.